Sometimes the most powerful people in the world are invisible, not by choice, but by dismissal. This is the story of a man who owned everything, yet felt worthless in his own hotel lobby, and the young woman whose simple kindness changed both their lives forever. Hey there, wonderful viewers. Welcome back to Unbroken Truths, where we share stories that restore your faith in humanity. I'm so glad you're here today. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I love hearing from you all around the world. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button now. You don't want to miss the powerful stories we share here. Trust me, this one will stay with you. Now let me tell you about Hiroshi Corleone. The entire room buzzed with expensive conversation, designer luggage, and the sharp click of heels on marble floors. None of them knew it yet, but they had just insulted the billionaire who secretly owned every hotel they worked for. Hiroshi stood in the middle of the crowded lobby of the Grand Summit Resort and felt invisible. Not the carefully crafted invisibility he paid for all these years, the kind that came with private elevators, security details, and NDAs. This was different. This was the invisibility of being dismissed, of being looked through like he wasn't worth the effort of focusing. His worn leather suitcase sat beside his feet, scuffed from years of travel that nobody here would believe. His simple gray jacket hung loose on his shoulders, and his silver hair needed a trim. He looked exactly like what he intended, an ordinary older man on vacation. But he hadn't expected it to feel like this. The Grand Summit Resort rose around him like a cathedral of wealth, all marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and windows that framed the mountains like expensive paintings. Everywhere he looked, staff members moved with practiced smiles, greeting guests who arrived in designer clothes and confident voices. A woman in a fur coat in September was being escorted to the front desk by two bellhops fighting over her luggage. A man in a tailored suit snapped his fingers, and a concierge appeared at his elbow like magic. The air smelled like expensive perfume and fresh flowers, and beneath it all, the faint scent of judgment. Hiroshi had been standing in line for 20 minutes. The line had been 6 people long when he arrived. Now it was 3 people long. But he was still standing in the same spot, because every time he got close to the desk, someone new would arrive and the staff would wave them forward. A couple in matching tennis whites, a family with shopping bags from stores Hiroshi owned stock in, a businessman who didn't even have luggage, just a phone pressed to his ear and an expression that said the world owed him speed. Each time Hiroshi stepped back, he told himself it didn't matter. He told himself this was exactly why he came here, to see how his company's properties treated people when they thought no one important was watching. But knowing something and feeling it were two different things. And right now, what he felt was small. "Excuse me," Hiroshi said quietly to a passing staff member, a young man in a crisp uniform with a name tag that read Brandon. His English was careful, each word placed like a stone across a stream. "I have a reservation. I waited a long time." Brandon glanced at him, then past him, scanning the lobby for someone more important. "You'll have to wait your turn, sir," he said, already moving away. The word "sir" sounded like an afterthought, something he'd been trained to say but didn't mean. Hiroshi nodded and stayed where he was, his feet hurt. He has been traveling for 18 hours from Tokyo to San Francisco to Denver to here. Each flight another layer of distance between him and the life that had collapsed around him 3 weeks ago. His nephew, his own blood, the boy he mentored and trusted and prepared to take over the company. And all the while, that boy had been moving pieces on a board Hiroshi hadn't known existed, making deals behind his back, positioning himself to push Hiroshi out. The betrayal had been clean and surgical and completely legal. It had also been devastating. So Hiroshi had done something he hadn't done in 30 years. He left. No security detail, no assistant, no one who would look at him and see dollar signs or power or opportunity. Just an old man with a suitcase and a reservation made under a name no one would recognize. He built Corleone International from nothing. Started with a single hotel in Osaka 40 years ago when he was barely 25. Worked 18-hour days, slept in the storage room, learned every job from housekeeping to accounting. He wanted to create something that made people feel welcomed, valued, seen. Now he couldn't even get checked into one of his own properties. The line moved forward. Hiroshi moved with it. 2 people ahead of him now. He could see the front desk where a woman with perfect makeup and an even more perfect smile was typing on a computer. She looked up, caught his eye for a fraction of a second, and looked away again. Not worth her time. Behind him, he heard laughter. A group of guests, 3 men in golf clothes, carrying drinks from the bar, had gathered near the lobby entrance, looking at something on a phone. One of them glanced over at Hiroshi and said something too quiet to hear. The others laughed louder. Hiroshi didn't turn around. He learned a long time ago that the worst thing you could do was acknowledge mockery. It only encouraged them. His wife would have handled this differently. Akiko had always been the brave one, the one who spoke up when things were wrong. But she has been gone for 5 years now, and sometimes Hiroshi felt like he lost his voice when he lost her. Their daughter, Yuki, had tried to convince him not to make this trip. "Father, you're exhausted. Let me handle the company politics. Just rest." But Hiroshi couldn't rest. Not when everything he built was being twisted into something he didn't recognize. Not when the values he spent 40 years instilling, respect, dignity, service, were being replaced by profit margins and efficiency metrics. He needed to see for himself, needed to know if there was anything left worth fighting for. "Next," called the woman at the desk. The person ahead of Hiroshi moved forward. One more. Just one more, and then he could check in and go upstairs and lock himself in a room where no one could see him. He was so tired, the kind of tired that lived in his bones and made every small interaction feel like climbing stairs. Next. Hiroshi stepped forward. The woman at the desk looked at him, and her smile dimmed like someone had turned down a dial. "Name?" she asked, her tone flat. "Corleone," Hiroshi said, setting his suitcase down carefully. "Hiroshi Corleone. I have a reservation." "Spell the last name." He did, she typed, frowning at her screen. The frown deepened. "I don't see anything," she said. "Are you sure you have a reservation here?" "Yes, I made a reservation 3 weeks ago." He reached for his jacket pocket, trying to remember where he put the confirmation email. His phone, his wallet, everything felt scrambled in his head, exhaustion mixing with embarrassment. "Sir, if you don't have a confirmation number, I can't help you." She was already looking past him toward the next person in line. "Maybe you have the wrong hotel." "No, it is the correct hotel. I'm sure. Please, can you check again?" "I already checked." Her voice had gone sharp now, impatient. "We have nothing under that name. Now please step aside so I can help the next guest." Step aside, like he was blocking traffic, like he was some kind of obstacle. Hiroshi felt heat crawl up his neck, that particular shame that came from being dismissed in public, from being treated like you were too stupid to understand what was happening. His English was good, not perfect, but good enough. He knew what she was really saying. She was saying, "You don't belong here. Before we continue, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible? Like no matter what you said, people just looked right through you? Drop a comment and share your experience. Your stories matter, and I read every single one." "Please," he said again, hating how small his voice sounded. "I have a reservation. Maybe a different name. I can explain." "Sir." A new voice, sharp and male. Hiroshi looked up and saw a man in a manager's jacket striding toward the desk, his expression all business and no warmth. "Is there a problem here?" "This gentleman doesn't have a reservation," the desk woman said, her tone suggesting the word gentleman was being generous. The manager looked Hiroshi up and down the worn jacket, the old suitcase, the gray hair that needed cutting, and something closed in his face. "Sir, this is a luxury resort. If you're looking for budget accommodations, there are several motels about 15 miles down the mountain road." He said it loud enough that nearby guests turned to look. The message was clear. You can't afford this place. Something broke inside Hiroshi then. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet crack, like ice splitting on a frozen lake. He built an empire. He employed 40,000 people across 6 countries. He donated more money to charity last year than this entire resort probably made in profit. And right now, none of it mattered because these people looked at him and saw nothing worth their time. He was about to speak to say what, he didn't know when a voice cut through the lobby noise like a bell. "Sumimasen." The word was Japanese, excuse me. But it was more than that. It was the polite form, the respectful version, spoken with perfect Tokyo pronunciation. Hiroshi's head turned so fast his neck cracked. A young woman was walking toward him from the cafe area, wearing a simple black uniform with an apron, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She looked tired, the kind of tired that came from too many hours on your feet. But her eyes were kind, and she was looking directly at Hiroshi. She stopped a few feet away and bowed slightly, a small, respectful gesture that hit Hiroshi like a punch to the chest. Then she spoke again, and this time it wasn't one word. It was a full sentence, fluent and natural and impossibly unexpected. Ojama shitsumimasen, o tetsudai dekimasu ka? I'm sorry to intrude. May I help you, sir? The words were in Japanese, perfect Japanese, and suddenly the entire lobby seemed to hold its breath. Hiroshi stared at her. For a moment, he forgot where he was. He forgot the desk clerk's dismissal, forgot the manager's judgment, forgot the 18 hours of travel and the 3 weeks of betrayal. All of it disappeared because this young woman, this waitress with tired eyes and flour on her apron, had just spoken to him in his own language, in his own country's respectful tone, and it felt like hearing his mother's voice after years of silence. "You speak Japanese?" he asked, still in Japanese, his voice rough with disbelief. She smiled. It wasn't a professional smile like the ones plastered on everyone else's faces. It was real, warm, the kind of smile that reached the eyes. "Hai, so desu. Tokyo ni sunde imashita." Yes, sir. I lived in Tokyo for several years. She switched to Japanese completely now, her accent flawless. "I couldn't help but overhear. It sounded like you were having trouble with your reservation." Behind Hiroshi, someone cleared their throat impatiently. The desk clerk was watching with narrowed eyes. The manager had crossed his arms, but the young woman didn't seem to notice or care. She was focused entirely on Hiroshi, giving him the kind of attention he had been denied for the past hour. "I have a reservation," Hiroshi said, still speaking Japanese because it was such a relief to use words that came naturally. "But I cannot remember the name I used. My assistant made the booking, but I left in a hurry, and I think maybe she used a different name for privacy. I have an email somewhere, but I cannot find it on my phone." The woman nodded, listening with complete attention. Then she turned to the desk clerk and said in English, with just a hint of an accent, "Excuse me, Jennifer. This gentleman is Mr. Corleone. He has a reservation, but there may have been a booking mix-up. May I use the computer to help search for it?" Jennifer, the desk clerk, blinked. She looked from the waitress to Hiroshi, confusion and irritation fighting on her face. "Elena, you're supposed to be in the cafe. This isn't your department." "I know," Elena said, her voice calm and polite but somehow also firm. "But I speak Japanese, and I think I can help resolve this quickly. It'll only take a moment." The manager stepped forward, his professional mask slipping to show annoyance. "Miss Ripley, I appreciate your initiative, but we have procedures." "The procedure is to help guests," Elena interrupted gently. She smiled at him with that same warm, real smile, but there was steel underneath it now. "Right? That's what we're here for." For a second, the manager looked like he wanted to argue. Then he glanced around the lobby at the growing crowd of onlookers and forced a tight smile. "Fine. Make it quick." Elena moved behind the desk, Jennifer reluctantly stepping aside, and turned to Hiroshi. "Can you remember anything about the booking? A date, a credit card number, an email address?" Hiroshi's mind felt clearer now, less fogged by exhaustion and humiliation. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and started scrolling through emails. "My assistant's name is Tomoko Yamada. She would have made the booking. Maybe under her name," or he paused, remembering. "Maybe under Sato. That's a pen name I sometimes use for privacy." Elena's fingers moved across the keyboard. She typed, paused, typed again. The lobby had gone quiet enough that Hiroshi could hear the click of her nails on the keys. 10 seconds. 20. He held his breath. Then her face lit up. Found it. She looked at the screen and something changed in her expression. Imperial Suite. 14 nights starting today. She looked up at the manager and her voice went very soft, very careful. "It's the top floor suite, the one that's usually reserved for VIPs. The manager's face went white, then red, then white again. He leaned over the desk to see the screen, and Hiroshi watched understanding dawn in his eyes. The Imperial Suite wasn't just expensive. It was the kind of expense that meant someone important, someone who mattered, someone they should have recognized. You know what's beautiful about this moment? Elena didn't help Hiroshi because she knew he was wealthy. She helped because she saw a human being who needed kindness. That's the kind of world we should all be building. If this resonates with you, hit that like button and let me know. In the comments, what's one act of kindness you witnessed recently that restored your faith in people? Mr. Sato, the manager said, his voice suddenly oily with respect. I am so deeply sorry for the confusion. If you'll just give us a moment to prepare your room key. It's ready, Elena said, already printing something. I can give him his keys right now. She looked at Hiroshi, switching back to Japanese. Gomewaku o kake shite, moshi wake gozaimasen, onimotsu wa o mochi shimashou ka. I'm so sorry for the trouble, sir. Would you like help with your luggage? Before Hiroshi could answer, two bellhops appeared as if summoned by magic, reaching for his worn suitcase. The same people who walked past him minutes ago. The same staff who acted like he didn't exist. Now they were tripping over each other to serve him, and Hiroshi felt something inside him shift, not gratitude for their sudden attention, but a deep, burning anger at what it revealed. No, Hiroshi said quietly, still in Japanese. Thank you, but no. He looked at Elena. She was young, mid-20s maybe, with a kind of face that suggested she smiled often but had also seen enough hardship to understand its weight. Her uniform was spotless despite the flour stain. Her posture is straight despite obvious exhaustion, and her eyes held something he hadn't seen in a long time, genuine kindness without expectation of reward. How did you learn Japanese? He asked. She glanced at the growing crowd around them, then back at Hiroshi. It's a long story, sir. I wouldn't want to keep you. Please, Hiroshi said. I would like to know. Something in his voice must have convinced her because she nodded. My father was in the military. We lived in Tokyo from when I was 8 until I was 14. I went to a local school, made friends, and learned the language. She paused, and her smile turned sad. It was the happiest time of my life. When we moved back to the States, I promised myself I'd go back someday. I want to be a translator. Maybe work for the embassy or a company that does business with Japan. But, Hiroshi prompted gently, but university is expensive, and she shrugged. Right now I'm working here, saving what I can. You're working in the cafe? Hiroshi asked. And the restaurant, double shifts most days. She said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity. It's good work, and sometimes I get to practice my Japanese when guests from Japan come through. That makes it worth it. Hiroshi felt something tighten in his chest. Here was this young woman working herself to exhaustion, dreaming of a future she could barely afford, and she stopped everything to help him. Not because she knew who he was, not because she expected a reward, but because she heard someone struggling and decided that mattered. Around them, the manager was fidgeting, Jennifer looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor, and the other guests were whispering, sensing something significant was happening, but not quite understanding what. Tell me about Tokyo, Hiroshi said in Japanese, ignoring everyone else. What was your favorite place? Elena's eyes lit up. Ueno Park. My father would take me there every Sunday. We'd feed the ducks and visit the museums. In spring, the cherry blossoms. Her voice caught. I've never seen anything more beautiful. The blossoms at Ueno are special, Hiroshi agreed. But have you seen the ones at Shinjuku Joen, the night view? No, we couldn't afford the special tickets. That's a shame. The blossoms look like pink snow under the lantern light. He smiled at the memory. My wife's name was Akiko. She loved those nights. We'd walk for hours, not talking, just being together. Was? Elena asked softly. She passed away 5 years ago from cancer. Goshusho-sama desu. Elena bowed her head respectfully. I'm so sorry for your loss. The simple condolence, offered in perfect Japanese with genuine feeling, made Hiroshi's throat tight. When was the last time someone had acknowledged Akiko with such respect? His nephew had never even met her. The board members sent flowers, but never spoke her name. But this young woman, this stranger, honored her memory like it mattered. Your Japanese is remarkable, Hiroshi said. Better than many businessmen I work with who've lived in Tokyo for years. My best friend in school was Yuki Tanaka. Her grandmother lived with them and only spoke Japanese. I spent so much time at their house that Yuki's mother used to joke that I was her third daughter. Elena's smile was distant now, lost in memory. Oba-chan, that's what I called the grandmother. She taught me how to make proper miso soup, how to fold origami cranes, how to bow correctly for different situations. She said I had a Japanese heart, even if I looked American. She was right, Hiroshi said. The way you helped me today was very Japanese. Omoyari, compassion, thinking of others before yourself. Elena looked down, embarrassed by the praise. I just did what anyone should do. But no one else did, Hiroshi said. Only you. The manager cleared his throat. Mr. Sato, if we could just get you checked in properly. Hiroshi held up a hand, and the man fell silent. He turned back to Elena. How much longer is your shift today? I have 4 more hours in the cafe, then I'm supposed to help set up for tonight's banquet. How much do they pay you? Elena hesitated. $15 an hour. Hiroshi did the math. 4 more hours. $60. This woman who showed him more respect in 5 minutes than his entire staff had in an hour was making $60 for her next shift. He thought about the imperial suite waiting upstairs. $7,000 a night. More than Elena made in a month. Something was very wrong with this picture. I want to pause here for a second. Have you ever noticed how the people who work the hardest often get paid the least? How are the ones who show the most kindness are sometimes the ones struggling the most? If you believe hardworking people deserve better, drop a comment saying they deserve more. Let's flood the comments with support for people like Elena. Elena, Hiroshi said carefully, may I ask you something personal? Of course. If you could do anything if money wasn't an issue, what would you do? She didn't hesitate. I'd go back to Tokyo, I'd enroll in the translation program at Waseda University, and I'd spend every weekend visiting all the places I couldn't afford to see as a kid. The temples in Kyoto, the deer in Nara, the Peace Museum in Hiroshima. Her voice grew softer. And I'd find Yuki's family. I lost touch with them when we moved, and I've always wondered what happened to them. If Oba-chan is still alive, if Yuki remembers me. Hiroshi nodded slowly. He was beginning to form a plan not just for Elena, but for something bigger. This moment, this humiliation, this young woman's kindness was all showing him something he was too comfortable to see. His hotels had lost their way. His staff had forgotten what hospitality really meant. And he was so focused on expansion and profit that he stopped paying attention to the people who actually served his guests. People like Elena, who understood service better than any of his managers. Mr. Sato, the manager said again, more insistent now. We really should. What's your name? Hiroshi asked him coldly, switching to English. David McCandless. I'm the resort manager. And how long have you worked for Summit Resort Properties, Mr. McCandless? 7 years, sir. And in those 7 years, have you ever suggested that a guest try a motel down the mountain? The lobby went completely silent. David's face was drained of color. That was a misunderstanding, sir. I didn't realize. You didn't realize I could afford to stay here, Hiroshi finished. Because I don't look wealthy. Because my English has an accent. Because I'm old and tired and alone. Sir, I apologize. Tell me, Mr. McCandless, how many other guests have you treated this way? How many people have stood in my place, been dismissed, been insulted, been told to try a motel? No answer. How many? Hiroshi's voice was soft now, but it carried through the marble lobby like a blade. I don't know, sir. You don't know. Hiroshi turned to Jennifer at the desk. And you? How many guests have you made wait while you served others? How many people have you looked through because they didn't meet your standards? Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. Sir, I'm sorry. You just what? You just decided some people matter more than others? The weight of his words settled over the lobby like snow. Guests who were watching with amusement now looked uncomfortable. Staff members who were smirking now stared at their feet. Only Elena stood quietly, her hands folded, her expression sad. Not triumphant, not pleased to see others shamed, just sad that it had come to this. That, more than anything, told Hiroshi he found someone special. I need to tell you all something, Hiroshi said, his voice carrying across the lobby. He was done whispering, done being invisible. My name is not Sato. David blinked. I'm sorry, sir. My real name, Hiroshi said clearly, letting each word land with weight, is Hiroshi Corleone. For a moment nothing happened. Then recognition hit like a wave. David's face went from white to gray. Jennifer grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. One of the bellhops actually gasped. Whispers erupted throughout the lobby. Hiroshi Corleone, owner of Corleone International, parent company of Summit Resort Properties, owner of this hotel and 63 others across the world. "Oh my God," Jennifer whispered. "Sir," David breathed, I'm so." Hiroshi held up a hand and the man fell silent. "I came here quietly because I wanted to see how my hotels treat guests when they think no one important is watching." He let that sink in, watching shame and fear spread across David's face like a stain. "Now I know." The lobby was completely silent now. Even the fountain seemed to have stopped gurgling. Hiroshi turned to Elena, who looked stunned, her hand pressed to her mouth. "Miss Ripley," he said, his voice gentler now. "You showed me kindness when everyone else showed me nothing. You helped me when you had no reason to help, when it wasn't your job, when you gained nothing from it." His voice cracked slightly. "This is rare. This is valuable. Elena started, then stopped. "Anyone would have." "No," Hiroshi said firmly. "Not anyone. Not today. Only you." He turned back to David, and his voice went cold, sharp. Every word is a blade. "You're fired. Effective immediately." David's mouth opened, closed. It opened again. No words came out. "The desk clerk, too," Hiroshi continued. "And I want the names of every staff member who walked past me, who ignored me, who treated me like I didn't matter. I will review their employment personally." "But sir," David finally managed, "I have a family. I have a mortgage. Please." "You suggested I try a motel," Hiroshi said softly. "Because I looked poor. Because my English is not perfect. Because you decided in 30 seconds that I was not worth your time." He paused. "How many other guests have you treated this way? How many people have walked through these doors and been judged not by their humanity, but by their appearance?" No answer. David stared at his shoes. Jennifer was crying openly now, mascara running down her cheeks. "Please, Mr. Corleone. I have student loans. I need this job. You should have thought of that before you made me wait 20 minutes while you served people who looked wealthier than me." Hiroshi said, not cruelly, just factually. "Actions have consequences. Today, you learned that lesson." He turned to Elena again. Around them, the entire lobby was frozen, watching this unfold like a scene from a movie they couldn't pause. "Miss Ripley, I am creating a new position, guest relations and cultural liaison. Your job will be to ensure that every guest, regardless of appearance, language, or background, is treated with respect and dignity." He paused. "The salary is $90,000 per year. Do you accept it?" Elena's mouth fell open. "What? I don't—" "90,000 plus benefits," Hiroshi said, "and I will pay for your university education, any program you choose. You want to be a translator? You will be the best translator. I will make sure of it." Tears spilled down Elena's cheeks. She pressed her hands to her mouth, shoulders shaking. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" Hiroshi thought about his nephew's betrayal, about the 3 weeks of pain and doubt, and wondering if kindness was weakness, if trust was foolishness. And here was this young woman proving that goodness still existed, that some people still helped others simply because it was right. "Because you greeted me in Japanese," he said quietly. One sentence. That's all it took, and it changed everything. He reached out and gently took her hand. Around them, guests were wiping their own eyes. Staff members looked at each other with a dawning understanding. "In my country," Hiroshi said, "we have a saying, Hitokoto no shinsetsu wa sangatsu no samusa o atatameru. One kind word can warm 3 winter months." He smiled. "Today you gave me more than a kind word. You gave me back something I thought I lost." "What?" Elena asked through her tears. "Hope," Hiroshi said simply. "Hope that the values I built this company on, respect, dignity, and genuine care for others, still matter. Hope that there are still people in the world who help, because it's right, not because it benefits them. Hope that I haven't wasted 40 years building something that's turned into exactly what I never wanted it to be." Elena was sobbing now, and Hiroshi found his own eyes wet. He hadn't expected this. Hadn't expected that punishing cruelty would feel so much like healing. Hadn't expected that one young woman's kindness would give him a reason to believe in his own judgment again. "But there's something else," Hiroshi said, releasing her hand and turning to address the entire lobby. His voice rang clear and strong. Starting today, Summit Resort Properties will have a new policy. Every property, every country. We will judge guests by respect, not by appearance. Staff will be trained in cultural sensitivity, and anyone who fails to treat another human being with dignity will be removed immediately. He paused, letting the words settle. This is not a request. This is law. Silence. Then, slowly, someone started clapping. One person, then another. Then the whole lobby erupted in applause. Even the guests who laughed at him earlier were clapping. Even the staff who dismissed him were applauding, though whether from genuine support or fear, Hiroshi couldn't tell. Here's what I want you to think about. How many talented, hardworking people are out there right now, being overlooked because they don't fit someone's narrow definition of important? How many Elena Ripleys are serving coffee when they could be changing the world? Drop a "they see me" in the comments if you've ever felt underestimated. Let's remind each other that we all matter. Elena was crying openly now, and Hiroshi handed her his handkerchief, the one Akiko had embroidered with his initials 40 years ago. "Come," he said to Elena in Japanese. "Help me to my room. I am very tired, and I have many calls to make. But first, I want to hear more about Tokyo. I want to hear about your dreams. I want to know everything." Elena nodded, wiping her face with his handkerchief. She came around the desk, picked up Hiroshi's worn suitcase, ignoring the bellhops, and walked beside him toward the elevator. As the doors began to close, Hiroshi caught one last glimpse of the lobby. David standing frozen, his career in ruins. Jennifer with mascara-stained cheeks. The guests whispered, processing what they just witnessed. The staff looked at each other with new understanding, and he smiled a real smile. The first one in 3 weeks. But as the elevator began to rise, Hiroshi felt something else, a weight settling on his shoulders. Because this wasn't just about one hotel anymore. This was about an entire company that had lost its way. And fixing it would require more than firing a few staff members. It would require rebuilding everything from the ground up. The question was, could one act of kindness really be enough to change an empire? The elevator doors opened onto the top floor, and Elena stepped out into a hallway that looked like something from a dream. Deep carpet that absorbed sound, walls covered in silk panels, lighting that was somehow both bright and gentle. She worked at the Grand Summit Resort for 11 months and had never been to this floor. "This way," Hiroshi said, leading her down the corridor to a set of double doors at the end. He used the key card Elena had printed, and the doors swung open to reveal the Imperial Suite. Elena had seen pictures in the resort brochure, but pictures didn't capture the reality of floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains, a living room bigger than her entire apartment, furniture that probably cost more than she made in years. She set down Hiroshi's suitcase carefully, suddenly aware of her flour-stained apron, her worn shoes, the smell of coffee that clung to her uniform. "Please, sit," Hiroshi said, gesturing to a cream-colored sofa. "You must be tired." "Sir, I should get back to work." "You just accepted a new job," Hiroshi said with a slight smile. "Your shifts in the cafe are over. Sit, please." Elena sat, perching on the edge of the sofa like she might damage it. Hiroshi moved to the windows, looking out at the mountains. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then in Japanese, "Do you know why I really came here? To see how your hotels operate?" "That's what I told myself." Hiroshi's reflection in the glass looked older than the man who stood in the lobby. "But the truth is, I was running away. 3 weeks ago, my nephew, the boy I raised like a son after his parents died, orchestrated a coup. Legal, bloodless, but effective. He didn't take the company from me, but he took my influence. My vote on the board means nothing now. The values I built the company on are being erased, one policy change at a time." "I'm sorry," Elena said softly. "I thought if I came here, saw that the hotels still reflected what I created, I could find the strength to fight back." He turned from the window. "Instead, I found they've become exactly what I feared. Places where money matters more than people, where appearance matters more than character." "But you're changing that now." "Am I?" Hiroshi sat down across from her, suddenly looking exhausted. "I fired 2 people today. I made a grand speech. I offered you a job I'm not even sure I have the authority to create anymore. My nephew controls the board. If he decides to overrule me..." He trailed off. Elena's phone buzzed. She glanced at a text from Marcus, the head chef. Where are you? We're slammed down here. Then another from the cafe manager. Elena, you walked off shift without clocking out. This is unacceptable. And another from someone she didn't recognize. You just got our manager fired. Some of us have worked with David for years. Thanks a lot. Elena's hands started shaking. What had she done? She helped a guest, something she was trained to do, and now half the staff probably hated her. She accepted a job that might not even exist. She left her shift, which could get her fired from the job she still had. $90,000 sounded like a fortune until you remembered that she had rent due in 5 days, that her student loan payment auto-drafted next week, that her car needed new brakes. What if this all fell apart? What if Hiroshi's nephew reversed everything? What if she showed up for work tomorrow and security escorted her out? Sir, Elena said quietly, I appreciate what you tried to do for me, but maybe I should just go back to my shift. Pretend this didn't happen. I can't afford to lose my job, and if people think I got special treatment. You're afraid, Hiroshi said. I'm practical. You're afraid, he repeated gently. I understand. I'm afraid too. Before Elena could respond, Hiroshi's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. Excuse me, he said, answering in Japanese. Hello, Kenji. Elena couldn't help but listen. Even without understanding every word, she could hear the tension in the conversation. Yes, I'm aware I left Tokyo suddenly. No, I didn't think I needed permission. That's not your decision to make anymore, is it? Hiroshi's voice got sharper. I own 49% of the company. I built it from nothing. You may control the board, but you don't control me. A pause. Hiroshi's jaw tightened. What do you mean? Effective immediately? Another pause. You can't do that. The bylaws require a full board vote for personnel changes. You already held the vote without me? Elena watched Hiroshi's face go pale. I see. And David McCandless? You're reinstating him. Yes, I understand. You've made yourself very clear. Hiroshi ended the call and stood there, phone in hand, looking like he had been struck. Sir? Elena ventured. My nephew, Hiroshi said slowly, has just informed me that the board held an emergency vote. They've decided that all personnel decisions require board approval. My firing of David McCandless has been reversed. He'll be back at work tomorrow with a formal apology from the company. Elena felt her stomach drop. And my job? Hiroshi looked at her, and she saw the answer in his eyes before he spoke. Denied. The board says we don't have the budget for a new position. They suggested you return to your previous role. He paused. My nephew also mentioned that several staff members have filed complaints. They say you abandoned your shift, interfered with management duties, and created a hostile work environment. That's not what happened. I know. Hiroshi sat down heavily. But it doesn't matter what I know. My nephew has the votes. He has the power, and he's making it very clear that I no longer have any say in how these hotels are run. Silence filled the suite. Outside, the mountains stood eternal and indifferent. Inside, two people who found hope an hour ago watched it slip away. Elena's phone buzzed again. The cafe manager, you're scheduled for a disciplinary meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring a union rep if you have one. This is serious. I should go, Elena said quietly, standing up. I need to figure out what I'm going to say tomorrow. How to explain. Her voice broke. I was just trying to help. I know, Hiroshi said, and I'm sorry. I made you promises I couldn't keep. I put your job at risk. He stopped, shaking his head. I'm a foolish old man who thought he still had power he lost weeks ago. Elena moved toward the door, then stopped. She turned back to Hiroshi, who looked smaller now, hunched in the expensive chair, his face in his hands. The thing about Obachan, Yuki's grandmother, that I'll never forget, Elena said softly in Japanese, was something she told me the day before we moved back to America. I was crying because I didn't want to leave. And she said, Nana korobiya oki, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Hiroshi looked up. She said that life would knock me down many times, that people would disappoint me, those dreams would break. But the measure of a person wasn't how many times they fell, it was how many times they stood back up. Elena smiled, though tears were running down her face. You stood up today, Mr. Corleone. You tried to do the right thing, even though it cost you. That matters, even if your nephew took it away. But you, Hiroshi started. I'll figure it out, Elena said. I always do. And maybe what happened today will change things anyway. Maybe some of those staff members who were watching will remember. Maybe they'll treat the next guest a little better. Maybe that's enough. She didn't believe it, not really. But she needed to say it, needed to give this kind man some comfort before she walked out of this beautiful suite and back down to reality. "Thank you for seeing me today," Elena said, "for speaking to me in Japanese, for making me feel like my dreams weren't silly. Even if it only lasted an hour, it was the best hour I've had in a long time." She bowed, a proper Japanese bow, deep and respectful, and walked out of the suite. Have you ever had a moment where something wonderful happened, only to have it ripped away? Where hope turned to disappointment in the span of hours? Tell me about it in the comments. Sometimes sharing our heartbreak helps us heal. And if you're going through something difficult right now, know that this community sees you. You matter. The elevator ride down felt longer than the ride up. Elena's mind raced. She has to face the disciplinary meeting tomorrow, would probably lose her job. Word would spread to other resorts in the area. The waitress who abandoned her shift, who got the manager fired, who caused drama, she has to start over. Again. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello, Miss Ripley?" A woman's voice, professional. "This is Catherine Walsh from the Seattle Times. We received a tip about an incident at the Grand Summit Resort today involving the owner of Corleone International. Would you be willing to comment?" Elena's blood went cold. "No. I can't. We understand you helped Mr. Corleone when other staff refused. We'd love to hear your side of the story. The public should know about employees who go above and beyond. Please don't write about this." Elena said, "Please, I'll lose my job." But Elena hung up. Her hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped the phone. The elevator doors opened to the ground floor. She could see the lobby staff whispering in clusters, guests still talking about what they witnessed. David was nowhere to be seen, probably in his office calling the board, getting his job back, planning his revenge. Elena took the back corridor instead, the one staff used to avoid guests. She needed to get to the locker room, grab her things, go home, and figure out how to survive what was coming. She was halfway down the corridor when she heard footsteps behind her. "Elena, wait." She turned. It was Marcus, the head chef, a big man with kind eyes and hands that could create art from vegetables. "I heard what happened," he said. "The whole kitchen's been talking about it." "Marcus, I'm sorry I left my shift. Don't apologize." He held up a hand. "You did the right thing. That was the owner of the company, and you helped him when no one else would. You should be proud." His nephew reversed everything. "David's coming back. I'm probably getting fired." Marcus nodded slowly. "I heard that too, but I also heard something else." He pulled out his phone and showed her a video. It was footage from the lobby. Someone had filmed the whole thing. Hiroshi's speech, his revelation of who he was, his promise to change how the hotels operated. The video was already at 30,000 views. "It's going viral," Marcus said. "People are sharing it everywhere. Kindness Matters is trending. There are articles being written. The board can reverse Hiroshi's decisions, but they can't reverse what the world saw today." Elena stared at the video. At herself, tears streaming down her face, accepting a job she never actually gets. At Hiroshi, standing tall despite his exhaustion, fighting for something he believed in. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means," a new voice said, "that sometimes the truth has power beyond boardrooms and bylaws." Elena turned. An older woman stood in the corridor, dressed in an elegant suit, her silver hair perfectly styled. She had Hiroshi's eyes. "My name is Yumi Corleone," the woman said. "I'm Hiroshi's sister, and I'm on the board of Corleone International." Elena sat in the staff break room with Yumi Corleone and Marcus, who refused to leave. "My brother called me an hour ago," Yumi said. "Told me what happened here, told me about you." She smiled. "He also told me about Kenji's phone call, about the board vote." "So it's over," Elena said. "Not quite." Yumi pulled out her own phone. "I've been making calls for the past hour, speaking with other board members, showing them the video that's spreading across the internet, explaining that if we reinstate David McCandless and reject Hiroshi's policy changes, we'll face a public relations nightmare unlike anything this company has ever seen." She scrolled through her emails, her face illuminated by the screen. 3 board members have changed their votes. That's not enough to override Kenji, but it's enough to force another meeting, a proper meeting with Hiroshi present. She looked up at Elena. My nephew is brilliant with numbers and strategy, but he forgot that this company was built on something more than profit margins. It was built on reputation, on trust, and in the age of social media, destroying that reputation can destroy a company overnight. What are you saying? Elena asked. I'm saying fight back, both of you. Yumi stood up. Hiroshi thinks he's lost, that his age and his nephew's ambition have made him irrelevant. But he's wrong. The employees love him. The public loves this story. And I'm not the only board member who remembers why we started working for this company in the first place. She handed Elena a business card. Tomorrow, don't go to your disciplinary meeting. Instead, come to the emergency board meeting in Denver. 9 a.m., bring your uniform, bring your story, and be ready to fight for the job Hiroshi promised you. But the board can't reverse what's already happened, Yumi said. Thousands of people have seen Hiroshi promise to change this company, have seen him recognize your kindness. If we back down now, we look weak, cruel, like a company that punishes employees for helping guests. She smiled. Sometimes, Miss Ripley, the right thing to do is also the smart thing to do. It just takes people a while to realize it. After Yumi left, Marcus turned to Elena. You are going to that meeting? Elena thought about Obachan's words. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. She thought about Hiroshi's face when he spoke in Japanese, when he finally felt seen. She thought about her dreams of Tokyo, of translation work, of a life bigger than double shifts and student loan payments. Yeah, she said. Yeah, I'm going. Good, Marcus grinned. Because we're all rooting for you, the whole kitchen staff. We're tired of David's management style anyway. We're tired of treating guests like ATMs instead of people. What you did today reminded us why we got into hospitality in the first place. He stood up to leave, then paused at the door. My grandmother used to say something similar to what you told Mr. Corleone. She'd say, the bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists. You bent today. You adapted. You helped someone when it would have been easier to walk away. That's strength, Elena. Real strength. After he left, Elena sat alone in the break room and let herself cry not from sadness this time, but from something else. Something that felt like possibility. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Hiroshi. My sister told me what she's planning. You don't have to come tomorrow. You don't have to fight this battle. I've already put you through enough. Elena stared at the message for a long moment. Then she typed back, with due respect, sir, you're wrong. This isn't just your battle anymore. It's mine too. See you tomorrow. She sent it before she could second-guess herself. The response came immediately. Nana Korobia Oki. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Tomorrow we will stand up together. You know what courage really looks like? It's not about never being afraid. It's about being terrified and choosing to stand up anyway. If you've ever had to find that kind of courage, drop a standing up in the comments. Let's remind each other that we're braver than we think. And don't forget to subscribe. These stories are about to get even more powerful. The boardroom in Denver was nothing like the warm, inviting lobby of a resort. It was all glass and steel and expensive leather chairs arranged around a table that could seat 20 people. Elena sat near the back, wearing her cleanest uniform, her hands folded in her lap to keep them from shaking. Hiroshi sat at the table with the board members, his face calm but his eyes alert. Yumi sat beside him, scrolling through her tablet. At the head of the table sat Kenji Corleone, Hiroshi's nephew. Young, handsome, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Elena's car. He looked at Elena once, his expression unreadable, then turned his attention to the agenda. Let's begin, Kenji said. We're here to discuss yesterday's incident at the Grand Summit Resort and the unauthorized personnel decisions made by Mr. Hiroshi Corleone. Before we discuss that, Yumi interrupted, I'd like the board to see something. She connected her tablet to the room's display screen. The video from the lobby began to play. Elena watched the board members' faces as they saw Hiroshi being dismissed, Elena helping him, the revelation of his identity, his promise to change the company's culture. When it ended, Yumi spoke. This video has been viewed 3 million times in the last 24 hours. We've received over 10,000 emails. 97% are positive. People are calling Hiroshi a hero. They're praising our company for having an owner who cares about dignity and respect. That's very nice, Kenji said smoothly. But we still have a business to run. We can't create positions and fire managers based on emotional reactions. Emotional reactions? An older board member, a woman named Patricia, leaned forward. Kenji, I've been with this company since Hiroshi opened his 5th hotel. I remember when our mission statement was, "Every guest deserves to feel at home." When did we lose that? We didn't lose it. We evolved. We forgot it, another board member said. I've been reading the complaints, not from yesterday, from the last 3 years. Dozens of incidents where guests were treated poorly because they didn't look wealthy enough. We've been ignoring a systemic problem because it was easier than addressing it. Kenji's jaw tightened. This is about one viral video. No, Hiroshi said quietly. This is about what we've become. He stood up and the room fell silent. Kenji, you're brilliant. You've increased our profits by 30%. You've streamlined operations. You've made this company more efficient than I ever could. He paused. But you've also made it colder, less human. And yesterday I saw the result. I stood in my own hotel and was treated like trash because I didn't look important. One incident doesn't define. It wasn't one incident. Hiroshi's voice rose for the first time. Miss Ripley, please stand. Elena stood, her legs shaking. Tell them, Hiroshi said. Tell them what you told me about working here. Elena swallowed hard. I work double shifts, cafe and restaurant, sometimes 16 hours a day. In 11 months, I've seen dozens of guests treated poorly because they didn't tip well, or spoke with accents, or looked different. The staff makes jokes. Managers look the other way. Nobody says anything because... She trailed off. Because what? Patricia prompted gently. Because we need our jobs, and speaking up means risking everything. The room was quiet. Miss Ripley speaks Japanese fluently, Hiroshi said. She's educated, dedicated, and has better hospitality instincts than most of our management team. But she's been serving coffee for minimum wage because no one bothered to ask what else she could do. How many other talented people are we wasting? How many guests are we losing because our staff has forgotten that service means seeing people, not processing transactions? Kenji stood up. Uncle, I respect your passion, but we can't run a company on sentiment. Then run it on this. Yumi pulled up another screen. I did some research last night. 5 of our biggest competitors have announced diversity and inclusion initiatives in the last year. They're training staff in cultural sensitivity. They're hiring people like Alina, and their customer satisfaction scores are rising while ours are declining. She pulled up graphs, data, numbers. We're not just behind ethically, we're behind economically. The market is changing. Customers want companies that reflect their values. If we don't adapt, we'll be obsolete in 10 years. Patricia nodded. I move that we approve Mr. Esli Corleone's proposed policy changes and created the position of guest relations and cultural liaison, starting with Miss Ripley at the Grand Summit Resort. Second, another board member said immediately. All in favor? Patricia asked. One by one, hands went up. 7 votes. Exactly enough. Kenji stared at the raised hands, his face unreadable. Then, slowly, he raised his own hand. Make it unanimous, he said quietly. Uncle, you're right. I got so focused on numbers that I forgot why those numbers matter in the first place. Hiroshi looked at his nephew, surprise and something like hope crossing his face. But, Kenji continued, I want to propose something else. Not just one cultural liaison, one at every property, a whole department dedicated to this. If we're going to change, let's do it completely. The room erupted in discussion. Patricia was nodding enthusiastically. Yumi was already taking notes. Other board members were calling out suggestions. And Elena stood there, tears streaming down her face, watching impossible things become real. 3 months later, Elena stood in the lobby of the Grand Summit Resort wearing a navy suit and carrying a tablet. Her title was officially Senior Cultural Liaison, and her job was exactly what Hiroshi had promised, ensuring every guest was treated with dignity. The lobby looked the same marble floors, same crystal chandeliers, but everything felt different. New training programs, new policies, new staff who understood that luxury meant more than expensive furniture. Miss Ripley? A guest approached, an elderly woman with a thick accent, looking uncertain. I need help with reservation, Elena smiled. Of course. What language would you be most comfortable speaking? The woman's face lit up. Portuguese? Let me get someone, Elena said, pulling out her phone. Within 2 minutes, a staff member who spoke Portuguese was helping the guest, while Elena watched, making notes. This was her job now. Watching, teaching, fixing problems before they became crises. Her phone buzzed. A text from Hiroshi. Coffee? Same place as always? Elena smiled and headed to the cafe where she worked for 11 months. Marcus waved from the kitchen. The new cafe manager, someone who actually treated staff with respect, greeted her warmly. Hiroshi sat at a corner table, 2 cups of coffee already waiting. He looked better than he had 3 months ago. Less tired, more at peace. How's the university application? He asked in Japanese as she sat down. Accepted, Elena said, trying not to grin too widely. Waseda's translation program. I start next fall. Excellent. And the apartment in Tokyo? You didn't have to. I wanted to. Consider it part of your continuing education budget. He sipped his coffee. Besides, you'll need a place to stay when you're completing your internship with our Tokyo office. Elena shook her head, still amazed. Sometimes I think I'm going to wake up and this will all be a dream. If it is, we're both dreaming it. Hiroshi pulled out his tablet. I want to show you something. He opened an email thread. Dozens of messages from guests thanking the resort for excellent service. Messages from staff at other properties asking how they could implement the new training. Messages from competitors wanting to know how Corleone International had turned around its reputation so quickly. This is because of you, Hiroshi said. This is because you listened, Elena corrected. Most people in your position would have accepted their nephew's coup. They would have stayed in Tokyo feeling sorry for themselves. But you came here, you saw the truth, and you had the courage to change it. We changed it together, Hiroshi said. That's the important part. Change doesn't happen alone. Elena's phone buzzed. A message from a number she didn't recognize at first, then remembered. Yuki Tanaka. Elena? Is this you? Someone sent me the video. I can't believe it. Obachan is crying. She always said you had a Japanese heart. She was right. Please call me when you can. She wants to talk to you. Elena's hands started shaking. After all these years, after losing touch, after wondering if she'd ever see them again. Good news? Hiroshi asked. The best news, Elena said, wiping her eyes. My friend from Tokyo, her grandmother, the one I told you about. They saw the video. They want to talk. Hiroshi smiled. Then you should call them. Right now. I'll wait. Elena stepped outside and made the call. Heard Obachan's voice. Older, shakier, but still warm. Still kind. Still the woman who taught her that kindness was the truest form of strength. When she came back inside, Hiroshi was looking at his own phone, smiling at something. Kenji just sent me a message, he said. The board approved his proposal for cultural liaison positions at all 63 properties. We're hiring 50 new people over the next year. He looked up at Elena. He wants to know if you'll help train them. Yes, Elena said immediately. Absolutely, yes. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. 2 people who found each other at exactly the right time, who changed each other's lives with a simple act of kindness. You know what I've learned? Hiroshi said finally. For 40 years, I thought success meant building an empire. But real success is simpler than that. It's treating people with dignity. It's standing up for what's right even when it costs you. It's recognizing kindness when you see it and making sure it's rewarded. Nana korobi yaoki, Elena said softly. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8, Hiroshi translated. I fell very hard 3 months ago, but standing up, he smiled at Elena. Standing up brought me here, brought me to you, brought me back to remembering why I started this company in the first place. Outside the window, new guests were arriving. Staff members greet them warmly, regardless of appearance or accent. A young family with worn luggage was being helped with the same care as a businessman in an expensive suit. It wasn't perfect yet. Change took time, but it was better. And every day, it got a little better still. Thank you, Hiroshi said quietly, for seeing me when I was invisible, for reminding me that kindness still matters, for giving an old man hope. Thank you, Elena replied, for teaching me that one moment of courage can change everything, that standing up even when you're terrified is always worth it. They raised their coffee cups in a silent toast to kindness, to courage, to second chances, to the truth that real wealth isn't measured in money, but in how we treat each other when no one important is watching. Because someone is always watching, someone always cares, and sometimes that someone is exactly who you needed to meet. So here's my question for you. When was the last time you stood up for someone who couldn't stand up for themselves? When did you last show kindness without expecting anything in return? Drop your stories in the comments. I want to hear them. I want to celebrate the Elena Ripleys and Hiroshi Corleones in this community. And if this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to remember that kindness still changes the world. Subscribe for more powerful stories that prove humanity is still worth believing in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. You matter more than you know.